everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be creating this makeup look using drugstore versus high-end makeup. So on one side of my face I'm going to be using all high-end makeup, and on the other side I'm going to be using more affordable and drugstore makeup. This video is inspired by my dear friend here on YouTube called Layla Rose. If you guys want to check out her video, I'll link it down below. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. So to start off my makeup, I'm going to be reaching for two different primers. The affordable side is the L'Oreal primer and the high-end side is the Porefessional primer by Benefit. These primers are two of my favorites and I feel like they do literally the same thing, but one of course is much more expensive than the other. The Porefessional primer does have a skin tint to it, but I feel like that doesn't really do much difference when they are blended into the skin anyway. Next for foundation, on the affordable side I'm using the Fresh Nude foundation by The Body Shop, and on the high-end side I'm using the Luminous Silk by Giorgio Armani. So to apply them both I'm going to be using this stippling brush by Real Techniques, and of course I am cleaning the brush between the two sides just to make it a fair test between the foundations. Honestly, these foundations are very similar to each other. They have that dewy, lightweight consistency and they are a medium coverage. I feel like the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk has a slightly higher coverage, but overall they are very similar, even down to the shade. Now for concealer, I actually picked up the wrong product for the high-end side. I picked up the mascara instead of concealer because the packaging is so similar. But for the affordable side, I'm using the Rimmel Wake Me Up concealer, which is my all-time favorite drugstore concealer. And on the high-end side, I'm using the Touche Eclat by YSL. And these are very similar in shade. The YSL one, again, is slightly more coverage, but these were the closest match that I have in my collection. Although they're so different in price, they both have a very similar coverage, and they work perfectly for the under eye to conceal your dark circles. As you can see, you can barely tell the difference between the two sides. Now for powder, for my affordable side, I'm using the Maybelline Stay Matte powder, which is my all-time favorite drugstore powder, and for the high-end side, I'm using MAC Studio Fix powder. Now these are again very similar. They have that yellowy tinge to it, which is great for the under eye to kind of color correct your under eye bag. Moving on to the brows, for the affordable side, I'm using Brow Archery by Soap & Glory, which used to be one of my favorite brow pencils ever, and for my high-end side, I'm using the Urban Decay Brow Beater. And these are so similar even in the way the packaging is. They both have a spoolie on the end, and the product is just so similar even in color, as they are both cool toned brow shades. Now onto our bronzer. For the bronzer, on my affordable side I'm using the L'Oreal Glam Bronze Bronzer, and on my high-end side I'm using the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil in shade light to medium, and these are very similar again in shade, and they give you that really nice seamless bronze look that looks quite natural and not overdone, which I really like. And these are both slightly cool toned, which is always a good thing for a natural seamless look. Now I'm super excited for this next dupe because it's a dupe of NARS Orgasm, and the affordable version of this is the Rose Gold Blush by Sleek. This dupe I actually found myself one time, and even though they don't look too similar in the pan, when you apply it to the face they look almost identical. They both have that rosy color with that slight shimmer of gold in there. Moving on to highlighter, for my affordable side I'm using the Instant Glow by 17, and for my high-end side I'm using the Dior Shimmer powder. As you can see, they are very close in color and they give you that really nice bronzed and golden highlight. They have a very similar formula, which is why I think that you are probably better off buying the affordable side rather than the high-end side. I of course have both and I can't really tell the difference, so if you want to save yourself some money I would definitely opt for the affordable version. Now for the star of the show is the eyeshadow. So on the affordable side I'm using the Revolution makeup palette, and on the high-end side I'm using the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. As you can see here, they are so similar. The Revolution palette literally has a dupe for every single shade from the Naked palette, and of course the affordable side is only £4, whereas the high-end side is about £30 or so. So you will definitely see some differences in the lasting powers of these shadows. However, for the pigment I can't actually fault it. I did find that with some of the shadows, the pigment did vary between the two palettes. For example, in the Revolution palette, some of the shadows were more pigmented than the high-end palette, and vice versa. So as you can see, I'm applying this golden copper shadow from the Revolution palette, and in fact, this was a much more pigmented shadow than the equivalent shadow from the Naked 3 palette called Trick. So in terms of pigment, I wouldn't say that any of these palettes are better than another, but I definitely think that the Naked 3 palette has much more longer lasting properties than a cheaper alternative. Moving on to eyeliner, for my affordable side I'm using the L'Oreal Paris Super Liner, and for my high-end side I'm using the Estee Lauder Little Black Liner, and honestly these are pretty much identical. The only difference between these liners is that the Estee Lauder takes a little bit longer to dry than the L'Oreal Paris one. They have the same finish, the same amount of pigment, and I would say that they have the same lasting properties. So once I was looking through my makeup collection, the mascaras that I could find which were quite close together was the Soap & Glory Thick and Fast, and that's what I'm applying on my affordable side. And then on the high-end side, I used the YSL Touche Eclat mascara. They have a very similar brush. The bristles are quite thick, so these definitely make your lashes a lot thicker, and as you can see, you can barely tell the difference. Now for my lip liner, for the affordable side, I'm using this Rimmel London lip liner in shade Cappuccino, and for my high-end side, I'm using this Clarins lip liner in shade Praline. Honestly, these are almost identical in shade. The only difference is that the Rimmel Cappuccino lip liner is a little bit more pigmented and the slightest bit darker, but overall, the Rimmel one is a very close dupe to the Clarins one. Now lastly for lipstick, my affordable side, I'm using L'Oreal Paris in Sepia Silk, and the high-end side is Blankety by MAC. This was quite hard for me to find a lipstick that is quite similar in shade from my collection, but I feel like these were the two closest shades that I had to each other. The only difference is that in my opinion, Blankety is slightly lighter in colour than the L'Oreal lipstick, but apart from that, they have the same finish and a very similar formula. So that is all for my high-end versus drugstore dupe video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it helpful. I have to say some of the products are really close dupes. So if you guys want to save yourself some money or you're on a budget, then definitely the drugstore options are much more affordable than the high-end options. And some of them are literally practically the same product, so you can't go wrong. So that is all from me. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye!